The cuffs didn't click shut quietly. They sounded like a gunshot in that echoey community hall right after she screamed, "I am the HOA," and pointed at me like I'd robbed a bank. 2 rows of neighbors had their phones up recording because nobody could believe the same woman who'd been issuing violations like parking tickets was now being walked out by a deputy. And the worst part, that wasn't even the real ending, because she wasn't the one pulling the strings. I'm Jake Miller, and I moved into Cedar Ridge because I wanted boring, like painfully boring. A quiet street, a clean driveway, a small backyard where my wife Emily could drink coffee without hearing sirens, and where I could stop feeling like every decision was a fight. And I did my homework. I checked the county records, the parcel map, the deed language. I'm not the guy who signs a stack of papers and hopes for the best. The listing was clear. The seller was clear. The title work was clear. This house wasn't in the homeowners association. Day 1. I'm still dragging boxes into the garage when a white SUV pulls up like it owns the pavement. The driver's door swings open, and out steps this woman in oversized sunglasses, chin-up clipboard tucked under her arm like it's a badge. "Excuse me," she says, not actually excusing anything. "Are you the new owner?" "Yeah," I say. "Jake." She doesn't offer a hand. She doesn't even nod. She just looks past me like she's inspecting the paint through her sunglasses. "I'm Judy Langley," she says, "president of the HOA. I blink. "I don't think." She cuts me off. "You have 90 days to comply," she says, like she's reading a script she loves. "And I suggest you start with the yard. We don't do, whatever this is, in Cedar Ridge." I actually laughed because it sounded ridiculous. My yard at that moment was 2 cardboard boxes and a trash bag full of packing paper. "Ma'am," I say, still trying to stay polite, "my house isn't." She leans in a little, voice dropping like we're sharing a secret. "Everyone thinks that at first," she says. "Then they learn." And she walks back to her SUV like she just delivered a court ruling. I told Emily about it that night, and we joked I did an impression of her voice. She rolled her eyes. We moved on. It felt like a weird welcome to the neighborhood moment, nothing more. Then the letters started showing up. Not normal letters. Not "Hi Neighbor Welcome." These were printed notices heavy on bold fonts and threat language stapled like they were trying to pin me down. Unapproved exterior changes. Unauthorized landscaping. Failure to maintain community standards. I'd read them standing at my kitchen counter flipping pages like, okay, what are we doing here? I hadn't changed a single thing. I hadn't even unpacked the lawn tools. I called the number on the notice. It went to voicemail. I emailed the address on the notice. No response. I went to the HOA office, which turned out to be a room above the clubhouse with a locked door and a laminated sign, "By appointment only." And somehow, without ever speaking to a real person, the fines accrued. I started noticing the neighborhood vibe shift. The same people who waved when we moved in suddenly stared straight ahead when they walked their dogs. Garage doors closed quicker. Curtains twitched and dropped. One guy, probably mid-50s, slowed down by my driveway and said, "Rules are rules," like that explained anything, then kept walking. At first I thought Judy was just doing that classic power trip thing, throw paper at someone until they fold. Annoying but manageable. Then it got physical. One night around 11, I hear gravel crunching outside. Not a car, passing the slow, deliberate crunch of footsteps on my driveway. I look through the window and see 2 men in reflective vests, one holding a flashlight, the other holding a measuring wheel. They're on my property, measuring. I open the door and step onto the porch. "Hey, what the hell are you doing?" They freeze like I caught them stealing. One of them lifts a hand in that fake calming gesture. "We're conducting an inspection for the HOA. "On my land," I say, at 11 at night. "It's scheduled," he says, which is the dumbest word he could have used. "Get off my property," I tell them. "Now." They leave, but not fast, like they want me to know they can come back any time. The next morning I find a handwritten note tucked under my doormat. "You're not safe here. Leave." That wasn't a fine. That wasn't a rule. That was a warning. Emily read it twice, then stared at me like I was supposed to have an answer. I didn't. I just felt this tight pressure behind my ribs, that feeling you get when you realize you're not dealing with paperwork anymore. You're dealing with people. I did what any normal person does when normal stops working. I started documenting everything. I installed cameras, not the cheap kind that glitch. I ran the wiring clean, aimed one at the driveway, one at the porch, one at the backyard gate. I backed everything up automatically. I labeled files by date and time. I started a binder, printed notices, screenshots, photos of the note, everything. I also went back to the county office because if Judy wanted to play authority, I was going to use the real kind. I got the parcel map. I got the recorded deed references. I got the boundary description. I asked for stamped copies. I wasn't trying to win an argument, I was building a wall. And still, it wore me down. Because even when you're right, being targeted every day does something to your head. You start second-guessing tiny things. Not the big truth, not. Am I crazy? But the edges. Did I miss a clause? Did I misunderstand a line of legal language? Was there some old annexation that slipped past the listing? I remember standing in the garage late one night staring at those boxes we still hadn't unpacked, feeling stupidly tired, thinking, maybe I should just sell. Maybe the simplest solution is to walk away and let the next guy deal with it. Emily came out and leaned on the doorframe, and she didn't lecture me. She just said, "They want you exhausted. They want you to quit because quitting is cheaper than fighting." And that snapped something back into place. Not rage clarity. If this was just Judy being Judy, she'd be satisfied with fines and intimidation. But if she was trying to push me out, then there was a reason. 2 days later, my driveway camera gave me that reason. At 2:14 a.m., a figure in a hoodie walked into my yard carrying wooden stakes. He moved like he knew where to go. He tapped stakes into the ground, tying a thin string line between them like he was sketching a new boundary in the dark. He wasn't even trying to be subtle. I watched the footage twice, then a third time. Then I drove out there in the morning and pulled every stake up like I was ripping a bad idea out of my lawn. I laid them on the garage floor and took photos. That same afternoon, an older neighbor named Frank Donovan, the kind of guy who looks like he survived 3 different decades on pure stubbornness, knocked on my door. He didn't introduce himself with small talk. He just said, "You're the one Judy's messing with." I nodded. Frank exhaled through his nose like he'd been waiting for this. "She's done it before." Then he handed me a beat-up shoebox. Inside were old meeting flyers, notes, printed emails, and a small USB drive taped to a folded page that said in shaky handwriting, "Save this." "Why are you giving me this?" I asked. "Because you're not rolling over," he said, "and because I'm tired of watching her pick people off." That night, Emily and I sat at the kitchen table and opened the USB. It wasn't some dramatic movie file. It was worse, it was boring. Spreadsheet boring. And that's how you know it's real. A list of addresses, lot numbers, notes in a column labeled status, and next to my address highlighted in red it said remove, hold out, deadline. There were other homes on the list too, a pattern. It wasn't random enforcement, it was targeted pressure. At the bottom of the sheet was a name that wasn't Judy's, Grant Halverson. I didn't know who he was yet, but I knew what that meant. Judy wasn't just a loud bully with a clipboard, she was working for someone, or with someone. And the moment money gets involved, things get uglier and easier to prove. The next morning I hired a lawyer, not a billboard lawyer, a quiet, sharp guy named Ryan Patel who didn't react emotionally to anything, which honestly was comforting. He looked at my binder, watched the 2:14 a.m. footage, read the threatening note, then tapped the spreadsheet printout with one finger. "This," he said, "is motive." He helped me draft formal notices. He helped me request records. He helped me build the case in a way that wasn't just my neighbor is mean. Because when you go up against a homeowners association, you can't win by being louder, you win by being cleaner. Ryan arranged for us to attend the next community meeting. Judy had made it mandatory because of course she did. She loved that word mandatory like it made her a judge. The night of the meeting, the community hall smelled like burnt coffee and cheap carpet cleaner. Chairs scraped. People whispered. Judy stood up front in a blazer that looked like it came with a power complex. When she saw me walk in, her eyes narrowed. She smiled anyway, the kind of smile that says, "I'm going to hurt you and enjoy it." "Good," she said into the microphone. The new homeowner decided to show up. I sat down. Ryan sat next to me. Emily sat on my other side, hands folded tight. Judy launched into a speech about community standards and protecting property values. Then she pointed at me like I was a stain. "This home is out of compliance," she said, "and refusal to cooperate will lead to escalation." I stood up. My voice didn't shake, but my heart was trying to punch its way out of my chest. "Before you escalate anything," I said, "I want everyone here to see what compliance looks like to you." Judy scoffed. "Sit down." Ryan stood too. "My client has the right to present evidence," he said, calm as glass. Judy's face tightened. "This is not a courtroom." "No," Ryan said, "but it can become one." Emily plugged in the laptop. The projector flickered on. A video file opened. 2:14 a.m. A hooded figure in our yard. Stakes, string line, trespass. The room went quiet in that uncomfortable way. Not dramatic, just stunned. You could hear someone's phone vibrate. Judy's mouth opened, then closed. She tried again. "That proves nothing," she snapped. Ryan clicked to the next file, the late-night inspection. 2 men measuring. Flashlights, reflective vests. Then the photo of the handwritten threat. "You're not safe here. Leave." Someone behind me whispered, "Oh my God." Judy slammed her clipboard on the table. "This is harassment of the HOA," she barked. "You are attacking this community." And then Ryan put the spreadsheet on the screen. "Remove, hold out, deadline, my address in red." Frank stood up from the back row. "She did it to my daughter," he said. His voice wasn't loud, it didn't need to be. "Fines, threats, inspections." She tried to push her out. Another neighbor stood. "She told me my porch light was non-compliant and fined me weekly until I paid." Another, "She said she'd lien my house if I didn't donate to the community fund." Judy's cheeks flushed red. "I set the rules," she shouted. "I am the HOA." That's when the door opened. A uniformed deputy stepped in with 2 county investigators behind him, badges, visible faces blank, the kind of blank that means they already know. One investigator spoke like he'd said the words 100 times. "Judith Langley, you're under investigation for fraud, trespassing, and conspiracy related to the misuse of Homeowners Association authority." Judy's head snapped toward them like she couldn't process reality fast enough. "This is absurd," she hissed. "You can't." The deputy moved closer. "Ma'am, turn around." She looked at the room like we were all betraying her. Then she pointed at me again, voice cracking with rage. "He doesn't even belong here." "I don't," I said quietly. "And you still came onto my property." The cuffs went on. Metal on skin. The click that ends a fantasy. As they walked her out, Judy twisted her neck back and screamed, "I am the HOA," like that would rewrite the last 5 minutes. But the projector was still on, and the spreadsheet was still there, and everyone was still staring at the name at the bottom. Grant Halverson. The investigator paused at the doorway and glanced back at Ryan. "We'll be following up on the parties connected to this document," he said. Judy stopped fighting for half a second, just long enough to look scared. And that's where I stopped breathing easy because I finally understood. Judy was the noise, but the money was the monster. Lesson paper beats power every time.